Hey everyone, I'm back, and today we're going to be talking about Kingdom of Heaven. And this movie came out in 2005, and it's directed by Ridley Scott, starring Orlando Bloom, Liam Neeson, Eva Green, Edward Norton, Jeremy Irons, and Brendan Gleeson is in it too. Just thought I'd throw him in there. And I thought this movie was great. And before I continue on with my discussion on this film, I want to specify that I watched the director's cut, the just over 3 hours long director's cut, whereas the theatrical cut is like slightly under 2.5 hours. Director's cut is 3+ hours, so like 3 hours and 9 minutes, I believe, is a bit more accurate. So, pretty big difference, I would say. And I've never seen the theatrical cut before, or any of this movie before, except for like little clips. But that's about it. And that's all I really knew about it. And I knew like the mask that Edward Norton's character wore. That's all I really knew about it. And I really enjoyed the experience of this movie and what it offered. I really found the characters to be interesting and compelling, and I also enjoyed the action scenes and the violence in the movie. It was pretty violent throughout, and when we got some action in the movie, when there was like non-action, there was like no violence. Just wanted to make that much clear, but when we did get to the action scenes, it was not afraid to get violent. I do have my criticisms with the action, but I'll get into that later. I thought the acting was pretty great, and I felt as though these actors brought a lot to these characters, and they're very well cast, and the movie is pretty well shot throughout, and I'm just going to get this out of the way because I feel like I'm going to forget. There are some choppy editing choices. Most notably during the action scenes at points is when we get that nonsense, and it was kind of what I was afraid Gladiator would wind up being, or Black Hawk Down. And I was just a little disappointed that we got to that in this movie, because I just felt like I was watching a movie where the director just did not really know how to show action. But in this movie, it kind of felt like we have a director who knows how to do action, but just wasn't doing it right. It just felt like a bit too choppy, too many close shots, and we were kind of just seeing like too much of the same thing, and it's a little difficult to describe it in no words. And I also felt as though there was too much slow motion in this movie, and it's always the artificially slowing down where you have less frames of slow motion. It was never once filmed in a higher frame rate, slow motion. But one thing that I will say is that I did like the music in this movie. I thought it was good. However, there were points in this movie where it was played during the action scenes, and I do feel as though it kind of dragged it down because it kind of spoiled the outcome of some of the action in the movie. But going back to my positives, I really enjoyed the dialogue scenes in this movie. I thought those were the best scenes in the movie, and most of the movie is dialogue. There's not too much action in this movie, and that's another compliment I can give the movie, is that there's great dialogue, especially when Edward Norton shows up. There's like some philosophical dialogue in the movie, especially when his character shows up, and it's very interesting, and it works pretty well for me. And I also found the story in this movie to be compelling, and never once was I bored, surprisingly, despite this movie being so long. It always felt like it was moving. I always was interested to see what was going to come next, or I want to see more of what's going to happen. And there were plenty of characters in this movie, but I don't feel as though there were too many characters to where it started to get confusing as to which character is that. I'm having a difficult time following these storylines, and they always keep it pretty simple in terms of what's going on in the story, and I do think that helps. And what you read into it can add a lot to the film, but in terms of what's on a surface level, it's pretty simple and easy to follow, I felt. And also the structure of the movie, it kind of follows exactly what I was expecting it to follow, like a very traditional narrative structure in a sense, but I didn't feel as though that dragged the movie down. I felt as though not necessarily enhanced it, but rather we just got a good movie from it. And because we got a good movie from it, I don't really feel as though that's an issue, really. It never once dragged the movie down, despite my issues with the movie. It's not really with the structure of the film. And the only other issue that I have with this movie is that the visual effects looks kind of dated. Aside from that, they're not really in the movie all that much, and when I did notice them, it was mostly just during the action scenes. And the only other thing that wasn't necessarily a flaw, and probably wasn't like this movie's fault, but there was a moment in the film where Jeremy Irons has a line where he says, "Long live the king," and all I was thinking was the Lion King. So that was a little bit distracting, but I don't think it's necessarily this movie's fault. And like I said earlier, I've never seen this movie before, and I watched the director's cut, and for me to compare the theatrical and director's cut is kind of impossible because I'm not familiar with the differences, and also it's kind of weird to say, like, do I like this better or worse than the theatrical, because I personally just watched the movie, and anyone else who saw this in theaters or just watched the theatrical cut and have never seen the director's cut before, I feel as though that's kind of a difficult conversation for me to get into because they watched something that was different from the theatrical cut. I just watched a movie. So pretty difficult to add to that conversation is what I'm trying to say. And that's about all I have to say about Kingdom of Heaven, the director's cut. It was good. I thought it was very enjoyable. I liked where the story went. It was very entertaining. I liked the action scenes, despite some bad editing choices, and overall, it's a good movie. And with all that being said, I'm going to give Kingdom of Heaven, the director's cut, an 8 out of 10. Thank you for watching my videos as always. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a like and comment down below you thought of Kingdom of Heaven, and my social media links, they will all be in the description, so follow me there. And last but not least, subscribe to be a part of Foley Nation, and I'll see you when I get my next review up, and that is going to be for Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So look forward to that, but until I get that up, thank you for watching and have a great day.